The game of Stationfall takes place on this space station, which is falling out of orbit. There are about 13 minutes left before it is destroyed. Each turn of the game represents 1 minute. On board are about a dozen characters. Some are humans, represented by the green hexagons, and some are robots, the grey gears. You are one of these characters, but for now it's a secret which one. This means that every player can control every character, so someone might be pushing you around, making you do things you don't want to do. At some point you will reveal your secret identity. They then become your player character, and from then on only you can control them. The characters are all unique and have different abilities. For example, the Counsellor is an officer, so he can step through locks, removing them as he goes. Or Astrochimp is a tunnel rat, so he can step through vents, shown as these dotted lines. Other characters have to go the long way round. They can only move through the corridors, shown by these blue and purple lines. Most characters will gain additional abilities when you reveal as your player character. These are shown with the eye icon here. For example, the medical robot gains a bludgeon when they reveal. This is really handy since medical scores points by reviving humans, and having a weapon is a great way of ensuring that there are plenty of people who need your help. So here's how it works. At the start of the game you'll be dealt 2 cards. You choose one to be your secret identity. The other is your bonus character. Turn that one upside down and tuck it behind the other card, like this. Your character has an agenda. This is how you score points to win the game. Each star is a point, so we can see that Astrochimp will score 3 points if he escapes to Earth. He can score further points by collecting the briefcase, the alien artifact, and a gun. But bear in mind that lines with a plus at the start of them are dependent on the main line above. So even if Astrochimp collects all the shiny things, if he doesn't escape to Earth, he scores nothing. If I made Astrochimp my bonus character, however, I wouldn't care about his agenda. Now I only care about what Station Chief wants. Astrochimp can still score me a couple of bonus points though, as shown here. Notice that these bonus points have an Earth icon on them. This means that Astrochimp is my friend, so I will score bonus points if he escapes to Earth. On the other hand, if Station Chief is my bonus character, her bonus points have a red X on them. The red X is the symbol for being down. Down is similar to dead, just not quite so permanent. This means I have a grudge against her, so I will score her bonus points if she is down at the end of the game and if she has not escaped. It's worth noting that if a character is down when they escape, they still count as having escaped. They have excellent hospitals on Earth. They'll be fine. So here's what you do on your turn. At the start of your turn, you can reveal your secret identity, but it's a bit early for that yet. Next, you can put any number of your influence cubes onto a single character. I have a cube on Station Chief, so she is now my conspirator. If another player adds a cube, she becomes their conspirator too. Now we can both control her. If someone adds more cubes, Station Chief is no longer my conspirator, until I add enough cubes to match their bid. So, a character is your conspirator if you have cubes on them, and if no one has more cubes than you. Ties are fine. After placing influence cubes, you choose one of your conspirators to activate, placing your activation disc on them. It doesn't have to be the one you just put cubes on. You can now take up to 2 actions with this character, plus a free pick up or drop action. So for example, as our first action we might step to the next section, then use our free pick up action to take this helmet. Then as our second action, step again, or maybe instead we'll pick up this bludgeon. If you don't want to use your second action, you can instead wait. You just take back your activation disc. This can be handy because if a character already has an activation disc on them when you activate them, even if it's yours from the previous turn, they are exhausted, so you only get to do 1 action with them, plus the free pick up or drop. When a character steps from one section to another, they can optionally drag a down character with them. There's a limit to this though, you can only drag or be dragged once per turn. Remember that officers can go through locks? That still applies if they're down and being dragged. Just pry open their eyelid and hold them up to the retina scanner and you're good to go. We saw that characters can possess items. Items are these square tokens and go in their 3 carry slots here. Characters can also possess data. This doesn't take up carry slots, it's just information held on their personal computing device, so they can possess as much of this as they like. As an action, characters can pick items up, give them to another character at the same location, throw them through to the next section, or drop them at their feet. You can never throw an item through a vent though, even if you have the tunnel rat ability. Similarly with data, you can copy it to another co-located character. Note that this is a copy, not a give, so you still keep your own copy. Even better, if someone has turned off the jammers, you can copy data over any distance to any character that hasn't escaped. The jammers can be turned on or off as a console action. Just go to one of the consoles, at the mainframe, here, or the security station, here. After you have revealed as your player character, as an action, you can delete data if you don't want it for some reason. So what do we do if one character has an item and we want another character to have it? A popular option is to resort to violence. There are 2 types of weapon in this game, bludgeons and guns. Both can be manufactured as an action at the print shop, here. Using a weapon, you can attack another character to make them down. Then you can take their item as a pickup action. Alternatively, you can just rob them. As an action, you threaten a character with a weapon, then take one of their items. You can also use the rob action to force a character to give you a copy of their data. Another handy use of weapons is sabotage. As an action, use a weapon to damage your current section. Then no one can use this section action. For example, we've just made ourselves a weapon and we don't want anyone else to have one, so we'll smash up the print shop. To repair a section, you need a character with the jury rig ability. You do not use one of these to repair. It is not a spanner, it is not a tool, it is a bludgeon, and in this game it is only destructive. Bludgeons are no use, however, against someone wearing a helmet. Helmets prevent you being attacked or robbed with a bludgeon, but nothing stops a gun. Note though that only humans can wear helmets, they just don't fit on robots' heads. A robot can carry a helmet, but it offers them no protection. They can still be robbed or downed with a bludgeon. On a human though, helmets are amazing. A helmeted human can happily go into a fire, an asphyxiation hazard, or even jump into outer space. Robots have no such need. They're made of metal, and they don't breathe. They just don't care. There are a few routes into outer space. You can exit via an exhaust port or one of the airlocks at either end of the station. These all lead to the same place, so this is a handy shortcut from one end of the station to the other. Remember though that the exhaust airlocks are exit only. If your activated character is at an airlock, they can also use the airlock to throw an item into outer space, or even to eject a downed character. So, you want to start a fire. For that, you'll need a firebomb. These can be manufactured as an action here in the Chem Lab. As with all items, firebombs can be dropped where you are, or thrown into an adjacent section. When you do so, you can choose to have them ignite, creating a fire, damaging the section, and downing all unhelmeted humans. Any robots there are fine, of course, as are humans with helmets. An unhelmeted human will never ignite a firebomb at their own location. All characters have self-preservation, meaning that no one will ever do anything that immediately causes themselves to become down. This also means you can't rob a human of their helmet if they're currently standing in a fire or in an asphyxiation hazard. Well, now that we've got a fire, how do we get rid of it? As a console action, we can do hazard suppression, turning a fire into an asphyxiation hazard, or removing an asphyxiation hazard. Remember, console actions are available at the mainframe or the security station, so send a character over there. Then, as one console action, we can pump the oxygen out of the room, and as another action, we can pump it back in again. A lot of characters are down. How can we help? Down is only nearly dead, so you can be revived with nanogel. There are a couple of tubes of it sitting around, and you can make more as an action at the nanofactory. Each tube can be used twice, and it works equally well on humans and robots. You can expect a lot of violence in this game, but this is still somewhat frowned upon, so let's talk about guilt. All players start as innocent, but you will become suspect if you take any action that causes a human to become down. Other forms of destructiveness are fine. You can down a robot, sabotage sections, or start fires as much as you like, and no one will care. Also, you won't become suspect if you down a human in a dark section. No one saw it happen, so you got away with it. If you're really keen on murder, send a character to the security station, where they can turn the cameras off. Now that no one's watching, you can do whatever you want. But for now, if the cameras are on and you're in a lit section, if you down a human, you'll become suspect. Note that the character doesn't become suspect, but you do. They were only following orders. If you then down some more humans, you'll still just be suspect. One murder or 100, it's all the same. There's only one way to become guilty. Send a character to the security station and manufacture the evidence data. Get the evidence to the array control, and there you can use the radio array to transmit the evidence to the authorities back on Earth. Immediately, all suspect players become guilty. Except for yourself. You only transmitted the edited highlights of the evidence, after all. Here's why it matters. If you are guilty, you straight up cannot win. You might score all the points on your agenda, but that counts for nothing. Guilty players just cannot win. There is a way to evade guilt, fortunately, but it's tricky. Your revealed player character needs to get their own copy of the evidence. They need to escape to Earth. Then, at the end of the game, they can hand-deliver their version of the evidence to the police, moving you back to suspect. Some characters care about getting evidence or other data to the authorities or the news. If you didn't get a chance to transmit it from array control, hand-delivering it at the end of the game works just as well. But remember that only your player character can do this. This other type of data is called the X secret. It is knowledge about Project X, the secret military research that has been taking place on the space station. We don't know what Project X is. It might be something useful, but it's more likely to be murderous. Fortunately, it's being held securely here in Vault X. You can get the X secret as an action here in the Biolab. Then, whenever your activation disk is on a character with the X secret, you can peek at Project X. Be aware, setting foot in the Biolab causes a character to become contaminated. Contamination takes up a carry slot, but it is not an item and cannot be dropped. The only way to get rid of contamination is by heading to tanks and using the decontamination action. So remember, on your turn you get just 2 actions, or 1 if your character's exhausted, plus the free pickup or drop. That's not very many actions. Do you wish you had more? Well, you can, with bribery. Each player has 1 bribe token. You can't get any more, you just have 1 for the entire game. During your turn, after you've placed your activation disk, you can bribe any character to take 1 single action. For example, I could activate Station Chief. As her first action, she steps into the airlocks. Next, I bribe Astrochimp to throw his helmet to the next section. As her free pickup action, Station Chief takes the helmet, then as her second action, she steps into outer space. The bribe is a lot of money though, so if you don't use it, it's worth a point at the end of the game. And 1 point is a lot, a winning score may be about 10. Now if a player later reveals as Astrochimp, they have my bribe. They can't use it again, but it is worth a point to them at the end of the game. But suppose Astrochimp was already a revealed player character when I wanted to bribe them. In that case, it is up to that player whether or not they accept the bribe. If they refuse it, I keep my bribe, but I can't try to use it again on the same turn. If they accept it, they must do as I requested, but they have just gained 1 point. You cannot bribe your own player character after you have revealed. If you did bribe them before revealing, that's fine, but that bribe is no longer worth a point. Another way to get extra actions is through the use of Compromat, these folders of compromising materials lying around the place. When a character picks one up, they don't take it for themselves. Rather, it goes to you, the player. There is no hand limit for compromat. You can have as much as you like, and only you know which characters your compromat are for. You can use up to 1 compromat per turn, and it acts like a bribe for that particular character only. If you try to compromat a player character, they can choose to refuse it, just like a bribe, but if they do, they go from innocent to suspect. You can compromat your own player character. Let's talk about revealing. Before you reveal your secret identity, that character is a non-player character, meaning they can be influenced and activated by any player. After they reveal, they are your player character and can be controlled only by you. You will reveal at some point, either at the start of one of your turns or at the very end of the game, just before scoring. When you reveal, turn your secret identity card face up, but keep your bonus character hidden. Alternatively, if things are not going well, you can do a Schrödinger reveal. Entirely discard your secret identity and reveal instead as your bonus character. This is somewhat weaker, you can no longer score any bonus points, and you've probably spent most of the game working towards a different agenda. When you reveal, retrieve all of your influence cubes from that character. Everybody else's cubes go to the betrayal box. They thought Station Chief was their friend, but no, she's me, and I hate you. There are a couple of reasons why this matters. Firstly, you now have fewer influence cubes to work with. Secondly, each character has an influence cube limit. If I am Station Chief, I shouldn't really use more than 5 cubes. I can use all 8 if I want to, but each cube over 5 will count as a negative point at the end of the game. If you want to get some cubes back, there are a couple of things you can do. You can skip your entire turn. Instead of activating a character, you renegotiate. You retrieve your activation disk and take back 1 single cube from a character who hasn't escaped. It's a big deal to skip your turn, but if you're over your influence cube limit towards the end of the game, then getting that cube back is effectively gaining 1 point. Retrieving cubes from the betrayal box is a little harder, and can only be done after you have revealed your identity. Your player character must go to the therapy garden. There, as an action, they can meditate. Take some time to think about everything you've done, and get all your cubes back from the betrayal box. But that would only happen quite late in the game, when multiple players have already revealed. Have you really got time to sit around meditating? Probably you should be escaping to Earth or something. The main way to escape to Earth is using one of these escape pods. An escape pod can launch if there is someone in it, and if it meets any other requirements. These pods all have the same requirement, that abandoned ship has been sounded. We'll cover how to trigger that in a moment, but for now, let's just assume that someone has sounded the alarm and the escape pods are ready to go. If someone you care about is in a pod, and someone you care less about is in the adjacent airlock, they can use the section launch action to launch 1 pod. It immediately leaves for Earth. If multiple pods are ready to go, you can launch them more efficiently from the bridge. Someone here can do a bridge launch, but notice that only officers can perform any of the bridge actions. A bridge launch will immediately launch all occupied pods that meet their requirements. But this one is damaged. When a damaged pod is launched, it is destroyed, annihilating everyone and everything on board. Annihilated characters no longer exist, so they cannot be interacted with in any way. If there's no one around to help, you can launch a pod yourself. I step on board and use the timed launch action. I now place one of my sand timer tokens on the pod, and I wait. At the end of my next turn, the pod will launch. This gives every other player a chance to have their characters jump in as well, but be quick, each pod has an occupancy limit of 3. Or maybe they'll jump in, down me, and drag me back out again. Or even worse, sabotage the pod at the last moment so that it is destroyed as it launches. Now, depending on which characters are in your game, you may also have the Medivac pod. This does not require abandoned ship to launch, but it does require that there is a down human in it. Quick, get this patient back to Earth! So, let's see how you trigger abandoned ship. The calmest way is for an officer on the bridge to press the abandon ship button. The alarms sound, and all the doors unlock so that everyone can file to the escape pods in a calm and orderly fashion. There's probably enough for nearly everyone. If nobody triggers abandon ship from the bridge, then it may be triggered automatically when the station detects that it is in danger. If the turn counter gets down to minute 1, abandon ship is triggered. That's rather late though. This is probably the last turn of the game, so there won't be enough time left to do a timed launch on an escape pod. I say probably because when the turn counter reaches minute 0, we flip this marker over. There's a 1 in 3 chance that we'll get one more turn. Oh, not this time. Abandon ship will also be triggered if someone releases Project X. An officer can release Project X from the bridge, or an officer can release Project X from the cryolab, or if anyone with a weapon makes their way into Vault X and sabotages it, that would also release Project X. I think this character may be in trouble. You can also trigger abandon ship by smashing up the power supply. There are 3 power sections on board: the reactor, the mainframe, and the fuel cells. We start the game on full power, but if one of these sections is damaged, we drop to backup power. The cameras and jammers are off and cannot be turned back on. If you damage a second power section, we go into blackout and all these rules apply. Every section is now dark. Abandon ship is triggered, but the locks are not removed and officers can no longer step through locks. Fortunately, all characters can now use an action to remove an adjacent lock. This is just as well because Blackout also releases Project X. And almost none of the section actions work, so you can't make any new weapons or nanogel. But perhaps the most cataclysmic way to trigger abandon ship is to arm the antimatter. The antimatter is here, safely kept behind a locked door, in a vacuum, in its magnetic containment. If some clown were to wander in here and take it out, or use the eject antimatter action to eject it into outer space, or if an officer on the bridge were to use the self-destruct action, then the antimatter will arm and abandon ship is triggered. You place one of your sand timer markers on the round track 4 minutes in the future. When the round marker reaches that space, then at the end of your turn, the antimatter will detonate, and there is nothing anyone can do to stop it. What happens next depends on where the antimatter is. If it is in outer space, then everyone and everything there is annihilated and removed from the game. If it is in an escaped pod, that pod and everything in it is annihilated. I guess they didn't make it after all. If the antimatter is still on board when it detonates, then the entire station is destroyed, and we go immediately to the end of the game. A quick recap of the endgame procedure. First, anyone who hasn't revealed their secret identity does so now. Then, any escaped player characters can deliver any data they are carrying to the authorities or the news. Lastly, add up your score from your player character and your bonus character to see who has won. Don't forget to count bribes and check your influence cube limit. So that's it. You're ready to play Station 4. Before you start, have everyone read through the characters' cards so everyone knows what they all do. There's a list of suggested characters for your first game in the rulebook. Go with that, or some people like to swap out the Stranger in favour of the Inspector, Drones, or Maintenance clones. Definitely recommend avoiding the Digital Assistant, Telepathic Rat, Botanist, or Legal until everyone's played at least a couple of times. They're great fun, but they bend the game a little too much for your first try. If you're not sure about something during the game, it's best to look it up in this manual. The rules are really clear bullet points and it's got a great index. Otherwise you'd have to ask out loud, am I allowed to give an item to a down character? And the answer is yes, but now everyone knows that you're the security robot. Have fun.